Everyone, back to the Evermore YouTube channel. It's Chris back with my rant stroke thought of the day, and it's all about Trippier. Trippier talks. That's right. Kieran Trippier has been opening up to the media in the lead up to the game against Liverpool on New Year's Day. He's been talking about the squad and obviously how they're tired and why they're tired and what the reasons for the lack of form is and everything else as well. And he's talked about very positively having a strong start of 2024. We needed Kieran, we needed son. But it just made me start thinking about some pretty basic questions really. So what Kieran Trippier actually said was that the squad have struggled juggling Europe and domestic football this season. Now just pause it there for a second. So we knew this was coming. We knew this was coming in the summer. So why didn't we sign either more players who've played European football and are capable of playing European football and domestic football, or why didn't we sign, maybe a couple of other bodies for key positions like centre forward, like right wing, like a number six, and handle the kind of the slog of that football schedule, that calendar anyway. The two big signings that were made in the summer, really, in terms of first team players, was Sandro Tonali. We all know how that worked out. And Harvey Barnes. Now, listen, in another world, obviously that would work out a different way. I mean, Kieran's touched on that as well. He's talked about injuries and bad luck and everything else as well. And that is the case, definitely. But again, it goes back to the point of Kieran saying a lot of these players haven't played Champions League before and they're not used to juggling European and domestic football. So that then falls on the manager, in my opinion. I'm not going to slag off Eddie Howe. This is not an Eddie Howe out video before anyone jumps in the comments and start giving me shit about it. I'm not in that camp at all. I'm a big fan of Eddie Howe. He's done a great job at Newcastle United. He'll continue to do a great job at Newcastle United. But you cannot ignore the signs that he's managed the squad really poorly throughout a kind of congested fixture list, really. So exactly what Kieran Trippier is talking about there as well. Now, you look at some of the games we played where Kieran Trippier himself was starting, Dan Burn was starting, key players were starting in the lineup where you could have rotated the squad before these injuries all started to bite. I think about games like Brentford at home, Palace at home, Burnley at home. Why couldn't we have played Livramento on the right, Lewis Hall on the left, for example, instead of Dan Burn and Kieran Trippier? If memory serves, I think Burn might have even got injured shortly after the Palace game. Wolves away, games like that. Yes, I knew we drew it, but there was games in that calendar, the fixtures, that you could have used the squad. And Eddie Howe didn't use the squad to the best of his ability, in my opinion, and it probably has contributed towards burnout for these players. You can't play against Paris on Wednesday and Palace on Saturday and put in the same level of performance and not worry about fatigue, especially when you're pushing 33, 32 years old, which the likes of Trippier and Byrne are doing. Callum Wilson's in his 30s now as well. That I just feel that this is just another huge red flag for me as to why we haven't used the squad more appropriately throughout the course of these congested fixtures. Listen, if Eddie Howe was having to play younger players or fringe players against the likes of Burnley and Palace and stuff like that as well, we'd understand. You'd expect to win those games still. You might not win them as comfortably as you won them. I think we battered Palace 4-0 at home, I think it was. Burnley 2-0. St James was only 1-0 in the Brentford game. But, we wouldn't maybe have won them as clinically as we did, but would have had fresher legs. And then certainly in the Champions League for the following fixture, we might not have been so fatigued and the squad might be in better shape than it is right now. You can't legislate for the injuries. The Sandro Tonali thing was obviously one of those freak occurrences, whether Milan knew or not, is always going to be up in the air. No one's going to be able to answer that question because nobody will admit if they knew, and the club won't admit if they've had their pants pulled down their arses spanked either. So I'm really happy that Kieran Trippier is talking to the press, because that's what Kieran Trippier does well. He's a leader, he's a captain, and him taking the front and talking to the press like that tells me a little bit that confidence is coming back, hopefully, within him, physically and mentally, if he brings that resilience back, that siege mentality of it's Newcastle against the world. In 2024 is a fresh start for everybody to get back to winning ways. No European football too fatigued, that adds to stretch the squad enough. We need to have additions in January, but this interview just made me think yet again that the club knew this was coming, so why haven't we used the squad better than we have throughout the course of this congested fixture list? I'm not slagging Eddie Howe off. He's still a young manager and he still has a lot of things to learn in his managerial career, and I think that's one of them. I think he has to trust his players a bit more. I think he has to utilise his squad to the fullest of its ability. Even Alex Ferguson would play kids in games where he knew he had a midweek game against Galatasaray or Barca or Juventus, whoever it was, and that's something that I don't think we've done very well with this squad throughout the course of this Champions League campaign and the domestic season as well. We're still sitting in 7th or 9th place actually as we record this, so we've still got a good chance of top 4, but we have to get these players back. We have to make sure they stay fit, and we have to add in January. But I just feel that some of the season has tailed off a little bit because of our poor use of the squad, and I really think we could have handled that a little bit better in hindsight. And I hope that Eddie Howe has learned from that. I'm pretty confident that he would have done. He's a very meticulous guy. He self-assesses himself quite regularly, so I'm sure that he's learned a lesson from that, and he will be a better manager going forward for it. But let us know what you guys think in the comments below about this interview from Kieran Trippier. If you haven't seen it already, Mark, I'll put a link into it. It's from the Chronicle, but it just to me shouts out obvious things, really, that we should have used this squad a little bit better, and I really hope Eddie will do that moving forward. We need additions in January. Let us know what you think's priority. For me, Calvin Phillips looks like he's already in through the door. David De Gea and Nets for me is a no-brainer as well. But let us know who you guys want to sign. Realistic options as well. The news is that we can't spend loads of money, which is disappointing, having the richest owners in the world, but we can't spend that money. So frustrating for the club. They're going to have to get creative, and they better get creative soon. That's my thoughts about this today, guys. Let us know what you think in the comments, as I say. Like, subscribe, help the channel grow, and we'll catch you later. Cheers, bye.